Alright, so I just want to show you guys, I use matte cap gray. This is again in ZBrush. I turn on my symmetry, and from there we're gonna really get into sculpting. I took it out of edit mode and put it into sculpt mode. Don't ask me about that because I'm not entirely sure about all that just yet. So we're using our flattening tool to round out the bottom of the hoof. And you'll see me go into the pull tool or the move tool to really make some adjustments, and we start to pull out that mesh. I did have some issues with the dynameshing, and I overdid it because I was told, hey, use 1,000. Okay, you know what? Only use 1,000 if you're doing the full body of the horse or the subject of whatever you're doing. Truthfully, I had to go back in and find the decimation option because I had to decimate this and really bring that down so my smoothing would turn into a semi-flattening thing. So we go back after moving some things, adding some clay buildup. I really like ZBrush because of the fact it's kind of intuitive in a sense of the clay feels more like real clay. I've never sculpted in real life, but this is what I imagine it would feel like. So we go back to the flattening tool to really flatten out some of those areas, and we alternate between that and the clay buildup to build up that coronet band and distinguish between the hoof, the coronet, and the going into the pastern. So as we keep building up this wall, we extend out the frog and the sole a bit, and then we of course come in with that clay buildup and we build up the rest of the hoof kind of as we go along. I really like being able to look at the topical views of your subject as opposed to other programs like Blender or Nomad. ZBrush really allows you to see all areas of that, and this is in regular view, not orthographic view. We flatten back out that hoof wall and we start basically taking some clay away with that flatten tool, and our hoof is really starting to take shape. I meant perspective, not orthographic view. Yeah, it's not in perspective mode, which would kind of distort your subject just a little bit. So here I'm really starting to shape the hoof to make it into what I feel like it should be. Now, sometimes your flatten tool takes out a little bit too much, so I like to go in with that H polish. I know we're on flatten right now, but build up those areas. Come back in with the H polish and just kind of polish up those rounded areas. I'm flattening it here. I turned on the floor grid so I can make sure it's even all the way around, and I keep adding the clay and touching up those areas where I feel like it needs to be touched up. And I start adding more to the coronet band and really just filling in those areas, deepening the heel there at the end. Don't forget to save, guys. Saving is so important, and I often forget to save even when I started. So here we're bringing out the back of the hawk, and it's just for reference because you can always trim that off later. I just like to keep it again for reference. So a friend of mine, her name's Shanti, she showed me that this /3 tool works a little better than Damn Standard as a crease tool when you're comparing it to the functions in Nomad. And again, everybody has their own preferences, but it's just something I like to do for a little bit of creasing. Now, don't get too involved in your details. I just did that solely for reference because, as you can see, I start taking away some of that pastern and start resizing up the hoof a bit more. We go back in with that clay buildup to really fill out that hoof wall, but then we go back in with flatten just to reshape, and it's important to always be looking at all the views of your subjects to ensure that it's the shape it's supposed to be. You'll often see me do things and then undo them just so I can see which one looked better. In this case, I ended up sticking with my first choice of the H polish and to just add a little bit more clay to that coronet band. So then we go in and we do a little bit more shaping. That heel was pretty high, so I'm shaping it down some, and I like that flatten tool because it works like a scrape tool in real life or in Nomad's tools. We're going to add a little bit more to that coronet band, and then we are going to shape in that hoof wall a little bit. And just to match up the rest of the sole with the rest of the hoof, we're going to add the frog. And I went in there with Damn Standard, but I didn't like the way that looked, so I go back with my /3 and I really shape out the frog again. And we smooth it out some, add some clay buildup, smooth it out one more time after we're done adding those little details, and just go over looking at the hoof a little bit. So the frog is really deep, so I take that move tool and I move it down a little bit, I'll smooth it, and then I'll resize and just look over my hoof. I didn't like how pronounced that hoof wall came to a point, so we shaped it down, and this is your overall view of the hoof. So I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what else you want to see sculpted. Thanks, guys.